it's a good opportunity to work that muscle and talk about,
Oh, of course.
like the way that how you grew up and how that shaped how you
Yeah.
made stuff. But I
Yeah.
know that that's stuff that you don't prefer to touch on.
Yeah.
Like if I asked you how you started music, would you answer that?
I can say that I feel guilty about this because there was a piano in my house.
There's a piano in your house. Did you just kind of like?
There was a piano in my house.
I did. That was me with a drum kit. My
There was also I feel even more guilty about that because there was also a drum kit in my house. Now, if that weren't the case, I could see myself going a different way, or maybe a similar way, or I'd find my way somewhere.
I
Perhaps I'd get into multilingualism and I'd speak 12 languages by now, or something else. I would do, or actually, most likely music. But there's a lot of I did have a piano and a drum set in my house
my
when I was young.
my mom was and is a piano teacher, and my father is a drummer, and he had bought this drum kit for my brother, and he never used it. And so my dad was like, before I throw this out, let me just see if the younger son wants to play the kit at all. And I just kind of, I don't know, I kind of, it just came sort of as naturally as playing something at, I think I was like 2 or 3 at the time. So, dog shit, but as naturally as you can. And it just kind of stuck that way.
Yeah.
So if he hadn't done that, I probably would not have discovered it, which means I probably wouldn't have played drums my whole life and gone to college for it and moved to New York City. And I started this show by interviewing musicians from the college that I went to. So like, it's crazy how that trajectory, how something so small can switch up your whole life. So and then my mom taught me piano. Like, are you the only musical person like in your immediate family?
Well, it sort of surprises me because many of they like to say no, we're not really, but they are.
So you think it's like,
Turns out music actually was a commonly known thing. Just,
so it's not crazy
I don't know.
that you got in. I mean, obviously, if there's instruments in the house, someone in the family, does that. But it's not crazy that you got into it.
I think either way, though, I think that the fact is that music does affect me extremely strongly. Like it's just like there's no way that I was gonna not get into it.
So
even if it was nowhere, like I don't know, even if it was nowhere in around, I would still like see a movie and there'd be music in it. I'd be like, oh wow, like how does that work? Like, let's get into it. Like how does notes da 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 da. This is boom. It would have happened.
How'd you realize this is not just a hobby? Like, oh crap, this can be like a career. People do this.
When I was about 12, and this is after having done. The way I tend to operate is I see something that is just irresistible to me, and I get hooked on it, obsessed with it. It happened to me with card tricks. It happened to me with ventriloquism. It happened to me with various things. I recall acting out the entire Mr. Rogers intro like thousands of times. It's like when I see something, and I was a child, by the way. That is a childhood thing. And so, but that happens with many things, and music is particularly good for that. So that happened to me with music in different ways, whether it was this piano player or that drummer or this thing or that thing. It's like that happened. Like, so there's entirely different phases of obsession. Many of which related to music. And around the time I was about 12, I noticed so many of these little obsession crazes that come about. So many of them are related to music. And it just is clearly not going to quit. Like one way or another, it's just going to be there.
I had that exact same situation, but it was for entertainment related things as a whole. And that's something that I kind of knew my whole life, but I always wanted to make, like like videos when I was a kid. I started getting into the whole like interviewing thing on my old YouTube channel back in like 15 or 16. I had a YouTube channel all devoted to collecting vinyl records. So it was like entertainment because it was YouTube, but it was also, everything was always tied together kind of by that music thing. And I was a drummer. I was working at a musical theater. And then when I got to college, I went, oh, my love for this is not just I want to sit behind a drum kit.
Right.
I like to put on a show.
Mic, put on a show, produce a show. Yes. speak, use language.
Exact. It's
right?
as long as I'm putting on a show, whether I'm playing the drums,
yes,
whether I'm doing this, or when I DJ,
yes.
I have this stupid shtick where I wear a chef's hat and I dance around with stupid glasses, but that's the show part of it. And that's what I realized.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I love. And it makes me go like, maybe I'm a little bit of a narcissist and I like the attention, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, there's all of these different roots that I can tie together by this one love for entertaining people, or at least trying to entertain people. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not up to me to say
I definitely share the being on a stage aspect of it, and, you know, putting on a show aspect of it. And yeah, certainly I've had many times become obsessed with a certain show. I also regularly produced episodic entertainment shows. Really hit right with me.
Yeah,
they just do. It doesn't even matter if they're good or bad. Like, I'm just like, I want to see how it develops. I want to see how the set changes. I want to see how much they get better at it over time. I want to see, you know, so I really, really latch onto those things.
Do you remember the first time you had ever earned $1? Because I remember I was in New Orleans and I knew this woman named Doreen Ketchens, fantastic clarinetist. She was playing in the French Quarter, and we had met her because I was a part of this band at my YMCA in Central New York. And so she let me sit in and do some second line stuff on the drums. And I remember someone gave me $1, and I was like, what? I can do this and someone will pay me? Did you ever have that kind of experience where you're doing something, you're performing, and then all of a sudden, like, got some money? Holy shit, this is mind blowing.
Yeah. I don't know. It's complicated. I sort of had a roundabout way of getting to that. It's yeah.
Working like odd jobs and stuff like that as a musician.
I've done that. I've done that as a musician. I've done that not as a musician, and the whole thing.
Was every time that you had a job that wasn't like music related or entertainment related, did your brain go like, oh shit? Because I have, that is a big thing with me, that every time I do
there's
something.
A thing. I can say that it was a breakthrough when I realized that I could keep because a lot of people say you should get a job doing something with music because that way you can do what you love. But actually, I was really hung up about that. So it was kind of a breakthrough when I realized that I could separate it and do something totally different. And then, yeah, I don't know.
Are there anything?
This is firmly on the list of stuff that we are not supposed to talk about, by the way.
But I'm having a great time. I'm going to be honest. I'm having a great time. But I know, like, I worked, like I said, I used to work in television, and used to means like 2 months ago. And it's something where I realized if I'm not in a role where I am prominent, if I'm like in a behind the scenes role, I really just can't function that way. I can't separate those things. I can't say, well, you know, when I go home and I do the vibe chamber and I go and play drums, it's different. I kind of need that little bit of having to put on like a show, like I said, in all the things. But you're able to, like, you could do something that's totally unentertainment related and be like, that's my job. Bam. Oh, now I'm doing the thing I love. You can do that.
Think of it this way. If I were working at a store and I could either be in the back scanning things or at the register, most people in a store, I think, hate being on the register. They hate it.
I know someone. I don't want to say because I don't want.
But that's all I would want to do if I were to work in a store. Because
you're like prominent, you're in front of people.
Yeah, it's just like having a talk show, basically. Not really. It's not as good as having a talk show, but it's certainly I'd be better at doing this if I were doing that regularly. I certainly know that when you do that regularly, do you remember a guy on Jeopardy that did super good about 6 years ago? I think his name is Austin Rogers. This guy is just spectacular. This guy just leaps off the screen. I mean, this guy is fantastic.
Is he the guy who did the like "I love you" when what's his name which "I love you, Alex" when Alex Trebek announced that he had cancer? I don't think so. No, wasn't him.
This is earlier. I don't think so. This is earlier.
Because I know that guy and I know Ken Jennings, but I don't know if I know this other guy.
Austin Rogers is just magnetic on the screen. Turns out he had a gig hosting trivia at a bar. So that was where he got. That's where he got. You know, but he's just like during that 10-second intro thing when they throw the camera on you and you're supposed to like look deadpan, he would always have some sort of thing that he would do, and he's really
some people are like sparkles. Just like a camera goes on them, and then even if they're in a group of people, you're just like that person. Same with on stage.
But basically that comes from being in a job or a role where you get stage time.
I learned a lot about doing this show from when I worked. I used to do work for the audience department of the Drew Barrymore show. And so we would bring people into the studio, we'd check them in, make sure they had their tickets, all of that. And a lot of that is customer service, obviously, but it's at a level where you go, these people probably don't know that there is a separation between me and the producers and obviously, you know, the talent of the show. These are different departments. People aren't going to think about that. They're going to think if this person sucks, this means that Drew Barrymore is a bad person, which is obviously not true. Yeah. So there's a lot there. We did feel a lot of pressure on that. And I learned a lot about how to get through awkward situations. I've probably said this on the show before. Talk through things. Learn how to say something in a way that's hopefully captivating to the person that's listening. Of course. Especially under circumstances where they don't like you at the moment.
I watched somebody host a show, and this is a particularly gifted stage presence person. The sound was going haywire. There was like whistling feedback and da-da-da-da. And it was like a corporate audience. And this guy was like, so we're just going to be hearing the sound of a whale just for the entire show. And that's going to be cool. And we're going to get used to it. And it was magical because it was the most horrifying sound. Yeah. And this guy managed to diffuse the whole thing and make the whole thing good and funny. And then that guy has years and years of stage experience, but it just happens from stage experience. And you can get stage experience, you know, almost doing anything as long as you're in front of people doing stuff. I'm sure, like kindergarten teachers are great at this. Yeah. You know, because they spend the whole day, you know.
I totally agree.
Or any kind of professor, or teacher, speaker, public speaker. You know.
Did anyone in your family, like specifically like your parents, did they have that kind of interest in performance like you do?
I think so.
Did they work in any fields that you would say like are related to that kind of a thing?
It's possible.
It's possible. My parents did not. Well, no, that's bullshit. My father, he's an electrician, so it's sort of like he has to talk to people a lot, but it's different. My mom is a piano teacher, but to be honest, I don't think about my mom as like having a job. I think of my mom as being my mom. So I like forget that. I go home and I go, oh, she has like 30 students. I don't remember that. So I know that my mom is very good at talking to people, specifically young children, which I am not good at. Young children, especially like toddlers, they hate me. I like them so much. I'm like, I just want to hang out. Like I love little kids and they're so cute. And then I go to talk to them and I'm like, hey, how's it going? And they're like, fuck you. You're not my mom. Yeah. Get the fuck out of here, bitch. Yeah. What are the things that you can do on the side? Like, what do you say are the parts of your brain that you can separate from art, from your performance interests, that you are also good at focusing on? Like certain things. I'm assuming it's technical related things like I am, because we both have this. We both noticed the vibration on the laptop. I'm assuming that it's stuff like that.
Well, I accidentally started full on learning the language of the Netherlands, which is sometimes incorrectly referred to as, well, I think it's incorrect to call it Dutch, but whatever. It's actually called Nederlands. But yeah, I accidentally started full on learning that language a couple of months ago.
And now are you fluent yet?
No. Hell no.
If I said like, can you say this and said something, would you be able to repeat it in Netherlands?
Maybe. But the thing is, I can almost barely do that in English, because actually it's a lot like acting. You do have to, like the difference between saying something genuinely and saying something with horrible scriptitis, as I call it, is like a vast difference. So it's yeah.
I get that. I will say,
but it's creeping into my mind like subconsciously.